Welcome to Uncle's Channel. Thanks for watching today. We just got our very first patch for Lies of P, and holy cow, have players' prayers been answered here, because they finally changed the typo of Carlo Collodi's name in the end credit scene, and they've got it spelled correctly now. Wait a second, you're here to tell me you don't care about the author's name being spelled correctly, and you're more concerned about the nerfs and buffs and difficulty of the game in general? Well, have no fear. The creators of the game have also heard your prayers as well, and they have changed the game significantly, making it much easier for the vast majority of players out there, because they've really changed the game a lot. But let's just dive into all the patch notes here and sort of go through it piece by piece and see how much the game has really changed and sort of evaluate, is this a good patch? Is it a bad patch? Are players going to like it or going to hate it? And we'll discuss final thoughts after it's over here. Field monster balance changes decrease the HP of certain field monsters. I mean, that can only make the game easier if you're killing the monsters faster here. It increased the chance of breaking some monster stance and the frequency of a stagger, and also increased the staggerable window time. And this is going to be a pretty big deal as far as being able to get your visceral attacks in. And I never really noticed the window being too short. And I mean, it sort of puts you in a little bit of a rush. That was sort of the I guess the gameplay mechanic of it, to make you play a little bit quicker, which I don't know, fit more of the Bloodborne type, but I can understand, it not giving players quite as much opportunity as needed to get these visceral attacks in. And so all of that is a plus. It's going to make the game a lot easier. Whether you're trying to just simply go for the game the first time, you're going back to grind some areas, that can do nothing but help players as they're working through this. Decrease the HP of all 3 types of dimensional butterflies, and holy cow, this may seem really minor, but this was a huge deal for me, because every time I came across one of these little butterflies in the game, it's like it took forever to kill the butterfly. You just go up and slice and slice and slice and slice and slice, and then it disappears, find it again, and slice and slice and slice, and my gosh, it took 5 minutes, it felt like, to kill some of these butterflies. But you're finally able to kill them in a reasonable amount of time here, and seems small, but that's a pretty important buff to me as far as annoyance in the game goes. Reward updates increase the drop rate of moonstone type items, so you can of course experiment with more weapons or more builds inside the game. Always a plus. Decrease the drop rate of star fragments. That's probably the only, I guess, disadvantage of this patch, because you're getting fewer of these. But I mean, they were so plentiful in the game anyway, and you can still buy them from the little gold tree or whatnot. And so I just don't think it's going to be a big issue for a lot of players. Increase the drop rate of ergo items, and that allows you simply to collect more to get bonus ergo when you're trying to cash in or upgrade your levels and such. Increase the ergo rewards of certain monsters that appear after Lorenzi Arcade. And this is a pretty big deal, because if you're going back to grind in the game, there weren't a ton of really good grinding spots. I mean, there are some, but this is going to allow you to have a spot that's specifically there to get your levels up, to get your equipment up, and just really have a good grind area. And I personally think that's pretty important, especially for players that like to grind up a little bit before going into New Game Plus. They finally have an area to sort of go back and focus on that. And I'm excited to see what people come up with is the best spot to farm for ergo. But I'm sure that will come later with other people's videos. Boss balance changes decrease the HP of the fallen Archbishop Andreas, and this is a huge deal for most players, because as they're going through the game, this is the very first, I guess, stop spot for most players. They get to it and they're like, I can't beat this boss, I quit, and they just simply move on to another game. This boss here is very difficult depending on which build you have, and decreasing the HP is going to allow more players actually to see more of the game, experience more of the story, more of the music. And I mean, it was so early in the game to have a boss that was pretty much a stop point, and so I think for the most part that's a good plus. Decrease the HP of King of Puppets in the first phase, and I mean, first phase, really, that wasn't the hard part. The second phase is always the harder part, especially in the second part of the second phase, where he gets super fast. I think most players would have preferred the HP to be dropped on that, but still, it's still making the boss easier. Decrease the HP of Simon Manus, Arm of God. Decrease the damage of Simon Manus, Awakened God. Increase the chance to break the stance of Simon Manus, Awakened God. So they really went all in for Simon Manus here, as far as trying to make this boss a good bit easier, or at least more fair for a lot of players, because this boss is very, very hard in the base game here without this patch, and it makes the boss feel more, I don't know, attainable to actually defeat. And I'm more excited about this one because, this is the end of the game. I mean, it's still going to be a challenge, and it allows players to actually finish the game and still have a difficult boss to go against. Also increase the Spectre's HP and damage, so now when you go in with your summon, your summon's going to last longer, deal more damage. I mean, how are these things not a plus for players to actually go through the game and finish this game? And yes, I know there's people out there who are part of the get good crowd who are going to say no, the game should have been what it was. The developer shouldn't modify it to meet players' demands at all. But you do realize like every Souls game has done this. Every Bloodborne went through a patch note as well. Every single From Software game has had some developer changes because they see, when the game gets out there, what are people struggling with? What do people need more help on? And they're trying to make the game a little bit more, attainable for the majority of players. Because, let's say they're developing the game and they said, all right, we have the Fallen Archbishop here. We're only expecting 50% of players to actually finish this boss. They look at the data here and only, say, 20% of players are finishing the boss, and then they're like, okay, we need to lower the difficulty down a little bit so we can get up to our original intention of only 50% of players being able to defeat him. And so I feel like they have their vision of what they wanted the game to be as far as what percent of players are going to finish these bosses. They weren't meeting that, and so they're like, okay, yes, the players are upset, we hear their demands, but it's still not what we initially planned when we developed the game. And so I feel like the developers here are still staying true to their original intentions, and that just sort of corresponds to what the player outcry was at the same time. And so all of these are huge helps for the most part. System changes add the feature to reset the character's level, peak organ, and legion arms at the gold coin tree. That's a plus, makes it a little bit easier. Characters created after this patch will receive 8 gold coin fruit instead of 5 for the first harvest. Always a plus. Adjusted the required amount of gold to reset the character's level, P organ, and legion arms. And I haven't reset my character yet, but I'm probably going to. And so, hey, makes it easier to reset the character, experiment with more builds, modify a little bit for certain bosses. I enjoy that. Additional changes, players will now be able to carry more weight for each point spent on capacity. And this is obviously a good thing as well. However, it does annoy me a little bit because last night when I was playing, there was some armor I wanted to use or, some parts I wanted to use. And I put a lot of points into capacity just simply to get my weight down to being normal again, not slightly heavy. And now it feels like all that was wasted. And I know I can go back and respec my character, which I will probably do at some point. But I don't know, it does annoy me a little bit, but it's still a good thing for the majority of players. Decrease the weight of amulets that can be purchased with boss or go, and some of those did get a little bit on the heavy side, so I feel like that's a fair change. Players will now be able to land attacks better when they use Fable Arts that consume 3 or more slots, includes Fable Arts that stack, and my character generally has 3 or more, so I think that's a pretty big deal for me. Successfully performing the Fable Arts guard parry will now break the monster's stance. Once again, every single one of these except for the star fragment is a plus to the player. It's going to make the game easier. Controller support, that's for PC players if you want to use your PlayStation controller. I mean, that's pretty cool. I'm not playing it on the PC. Bug fixes, fixed a bug with the Legion Arm Pandemonium Part 2. Acid Charge, rarely not working properly. Fixed a bug with the Legion Arm Pandemonium consumed only Legion Gauge while using grindstones. And I never used either one of those Legion Arms, so that one really doesn't apply to me a whole lot, but I'm sure if you were using that one, you're going to notice a difference. Fixed a bug with Geppetto's face to flicker in the cutscene after defeating the nameless puppet with graphic quality presets low. I mean, who doesn't enjoy a little bit better of a cutscene? Obviously a plus. And finally, fixed the typo of Carlo Collodi's name in the end credits, which I said was what all players really wanted out of this patch. Forget all those nice little nerfs and buffs. But overall, this patch here is pretty much designed to make the game easier and probably go what their true vision was for the game as far as the overall difficulty. They didn't want to create a game that, only 20% of players actually finish. They wanted to create a game with their certain, percentage-wise, and they weren't meeting that, and so the developers have, of course, modified the game to get it to match what their vision was all along. I really don't think the company who made a difficult Souls-like game is going to just simply cave to players and simply say, hey, well, the game's too hard, people can't finish it, they're complaining too much, let's just listen to them and change the game. No, I think this is what their vision was all along, put a little patch out later on, and like I said, all Souls games have done this. It's just simply a natural part of developing a Souls-like game. What do you all think? Do you like the changes in the patch? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you feel like they nerfed it too much, or do you think they buffed your character too much? Let me know all that down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.